And which means it's time for episode 2 of the Liga 2 report. It's round 3 this week, and we've got plenty to talk about this week in Liga 2 action. Geoff, you weren't kidding when you said that this league has stories, and this league is incredibly interesting. Not to mention the parity in the league is already starting to show. There you never know who's going to come out on top in this league, and it's already having some chaotic results early on.
Absolutely. No, thanks. Good to see you, Mike. Yeah, it was an awesome weekend of matches. And like you said, I mean, from the top to the bottom of the table, some really good results. And it's going to be like that all season. I think we're going to see on any given night about anybody can win. And and anybody can lose. So I think it was very interesting to see that the table didn't move much from last week to this week, but that didn't, deter some really exciting matches from unfolding. So, it's the story, this week for Benfica B is that they remain unbeaten. Again, they draw 1-1 with Portimonense. Again, a completely different match from the first two that they've had, but got to see some real good grit as they had to come from behind in that one. But they still hold on to the possibility of the Rui Costa Championship, the undefeated season, whether you finish first or third. We're going to go undefeated, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But really interesting to see where they're at. We'll get pretty deep into that. And then again, Academica continues to be the talk of this league.
Yes.
Now holding first all by themselves on 9 points, and that separation at the top is becoming apparent, but they've got a real doozy of a match this week against Lusitania La Rosa. So we'll get into some of that as we get a little closer. And our first segment here on news, your favorite topic, absolutely, transfers. And we're even talking about it at the B team, right?
Right. So, exactly.
So let's get right into that.
All right.
So couple moves this week of players that that they're going to either have been on or will eventually be heading to the B team. 20-year-old winger João Reg gets loaned out to Casa Pia. I think this is a great move for the player.
I agree.
Particularly. He's what I would equate to in Major League Baseball, we talk about a guy who's like a 4A player, right?
Yeah.
Too good to be at AAA, just not quite ready to be, with the big club. And, Casa Pia definitely looks like there's something in between and is going to get lots of opportunity there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not his fault. It's a sinking ship, but he can still make the most of it. I think it is a good opportunity for him as well.
We had a chance to see him play a little bit when they were in the States last year. He did get some run. He's gotten some opportunities, whether it was in the Taça Liga matches, and and obviously quite a bit with Benfica B. I'm yet to see, I think, his potential, right? And I think some regular time with a squad in one spot, maybe we'll get a chance to see that, or maybe he's like so many other guys we've had come through, the Joltas and some of these that eventually just need to go find
somewhere else. Yeah.
So on the other end, really interesting, loan, Anis Saidi coming in from San Diego FC into Benfica. I was hoping, it sounds like he's going to be with the U23 squad. I was hoping maybe he would have found his way on yesterday. I was able to watch that game at my desk. Not a whole lot of fun to watch. Sporting just laid the wood to the U23 team 4-1. But I 2 days since he's signed, probably just not there yet, but really interesting, on loan until June of 27, with an option to buy.
Season,
he has dual citizenship. So he is an American, born in America, but he also has Tunisian citizenship. He made 6 appearances, scored 5 goals for the U.S. under 15 team. And then with the Tunisian U17s, mostly at the 2024 U17 World Cup, 10 appearances and 5 goals. So this is a guy that at least, amongst his peers, definitely has some quality, and be real interested to see how that translates at the next level. It came up through the youth academy at Philadelphia Union, made 1 appearance.
Good academy too.
Reserve squad, right? And was really kind of the highlight of a lot of their work early on. He only made 3 appearances for San Diego FC. He notched 1 assist as a substitute against FC Cincinnati immediately after ending our match. And if you can find that on YouTube, really amazing. A really good play. It was a very tight game. I think it gave them the lead at that time, and they were in the 90th plus. But he makes a really just smart, well-measured pass from midfield that onto the striker to score. Again, not a whole lot of tape on this guy, but what we've seen so far looks pretty good. They did loan him out to a USL side, Monterey Bay FC, before he was being recalled and then sent to Lisbon. But again, it sounds like the plans for him to start with the U23s.
Yeah.
Wasn't utilized the other night. So the questions I have on this, and I guess what we can get into, a couple of things. How does this affect Anicio Cabral? And does it have anything to do with how he's performed at this point or a roster in general? And then does he end up slotting in with the B team at some point when Cabral inevitably moves up, right? He's going to have to move up and do something there. And in a larger standpoint, is this any indication that Pavlidis might be on the move? And we're starting to get some things lined up.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's just another in the pipeline, probably. This is a good transfer for Benfica. I like signing these players and starting them in the setup, even if they never make it through to the first team. There's a lot less risk involved in this type of an investment. And you could still sell them off. There's still going to be players. There's players that never make the first team that Benfica collects a pretty handsome transfer fee for. Selling them off. And this is, like you said, a loan to start. He's going to the U23s. That's where Josh Winder started as well. So that seems to be like the launching pad for the guys they bring in from outside. I did see also they picked up a guy from Flamengo as well, who has also been assigned to the U23. So it's a real young player, probably just 18 years old. This happened, I think, today or yesterday. So it's curious. I don't know how much this would have to do with Pavlidis. I don't know that it's that connected. I think Pavlidis only leaves if somebody comes in and hits that exit clause, because I don't see the club right now, the way they're doing business, parting ways with him this late in the transfer window with essentially no time to find a replace. Although you can say John Duran is the replacement already. Right. And Anicio is maybe the next to go up, but Anicio, we'll talk about it in the game, but he's not really blowing anyone away right now. Oh. Okay, and he's in a hard place. I'm gonna acknowledge that. Being in between is difficult. We've seen it in the past. Guys are in between. They start to come up and they get passed actually by the guys that stay behind in the B. And then later, when called on, they're much. João Neves jumped over a few guys, for example. Remember, Cher Nador was rated way ahead of João Neves at one time. Right. And now look at where they are. And a lot of that was just the timing. João Neves stayed in the B, played all the time. And then when he was absolutely needed, he came up because he was needed and he was going to play, versus coming up to kind of get a few minutes and to lose his rhythm, really. I don't know how much. I don't think this deal will have anything to do with Pavlidis. It could be a wake-up call for Anicio. I don't know. Yeah. But Anicio is probably, after this season, not going to be in the B team one way or another. Right. He's either going to go to the first team or he's going to go on loans to a first division side. This is cast, I think, in the model that Benfica practices. This has to be the last year for Anicio in the B team. So this is probably a project for a year or two from now. If it works out, if they like him, they'll exercise that option to buy and then continue him on that pathway. Or if he doesn't fit the bill, because you don't know until someone's there sometimes. If he doesn't adapt, if he doesn't have the skill set that they're looking for to play Benfica's brand of football too, not just to be a professional in Portugal, but to play Benfica's game, then at that point, they can return him to San Diego FC and go look for someone else. But it's going to be fun to watch play out.
Yeah, and it's I've asked myself to recalibrate how I think about players moving through Benfica since Marco Silva. Again, we're early.
Exactly. We all are.
Right. But to all the world, it really looks like, Marco is, he's going to, he has a lot of loyalty towards the guys that are there. Again, we continue to see, what I kind of, made a little bit of a jab, I think, last week, but, when are these guys coming back from the World Cup are going to see their way back into the first team? They're going to have to earn it, right?
They're going to have to earn it, yeah.
Been there in camp, and so, and to the point that you could kind of almost see the I don't want to say the arguments or the struggles at this point, but Marco Silva is really going to fight to keep his guys and say, you know what, these guys have release clauses for a reason. I need,
Exactly.
if we're going to win, we need Pavlidis, we need Shelter, we need these, and what happens if, they don't have the same kind of a season and we can't make as much. We have made plenty of money on transfers in the last few years. We need to go win some titles, right?
It's time
and rebuild the culture right?
Yeah.
So absolutely. You can't help but ask those questions. Anytime something like that happens, like, oh boy, is there somebody on the move? But I really do hope, my last note on there is, is this actually about development of a striker for the long term? That would be phenomenal.
Which we hope so, right?
Yeah. So, interesting player, some of the limited things you can see on it, but I think getting him, no offense, getting him out of the United States, getting him into Europe, getting into some, into some real quality competition and training. It'll be real interesting to see what he can do. And my hope at this point, I think, to your point, is get him up, with the B team and create some competition. And maybe there's a three-way competition there, up top between Anicio and Saidi and Francisco Silva, who actually looks pretty good, when he gets a chance to play. And if Anicio can't get it figured out, they're going to find some guys that can. So, I think that kind of does it for news as pertains to Benfica B and to Liga 2. But I guess we get right into the matches. Of course, started with Benfica B.
Yeah,
it was a Friday match.
It was a Friday.
Yeah, the 10 a.m. kickoff here, which is a real pain for me because I'm sitting there trying to catch it at my desk, and my recording didn't exactly take, and then I didn't get back to watching it a second time. So I didn't get as deep into it as I wanted to, but I did go back and look at my notes and so what I could, and I think we could pull some interesting things from this match. Again, hosting Portimonense Seixal. Interesting thing, and I did not print up all of the attendances, but I think something interesting to get into. It was announced that all tickets were sold. And there were lots of empty seats, and I think an official attendance of 2,000.
I think that's the capacity, that they set the Seixal for League.
I guess so, because you have the other ends and whatnot, but Portimonense traveled,
they probably had 1,000. Yeah,
right. They had half of it. It was half and half,
it was at least half of Portimonense fans,
which made for an amazing atmosphere. I wish we would see more allowance for that in the first league, but that is a whole podcast for its own day.
Yeah.
So starting lineup for Benfica B, running that 4-3-3 out there. Diogo Ferreira in goal. We're back to full strength, with our regulars across the back, with players returning from the first team. So Benjaki on the right, João Fonseca, Gabriel Indio coming back from injury as your center backs. On the left, José Neto. In midfield, Tiago Freitas, Miguel Figueiredo, and Gonçalo Moreira. And up front, Bernardes, Anicio Cabral, and Nuno Felix. Starting lineup for Portimonense, goalkeeper, 27-year-old German Dudu. They come out with three center backs in Marlon Jr., Jarlison, Amorim, and Sammy. Four in the midfield, Captain João Reis, João Casemiro, Xavier, and Edney. And then up front, three forwards, Daniel Jassi, Duda, and Mamed or Tiago Ferreira, depending on where you read it, right?
Yeah, right.
Vitor Ferreira will be the referee for this match. The match is still really just settling in as Benfica B finds themselves behind for the first time this season. In the 10th minute, Portimonense captain João Reis gets a flick on that travels across goal out of the reach of goalkeeper Diogo Ferreira, slowly bounces off the left post and into the net for a 1-0 advantage to the side from Algarve. It was notable that in the first 15 minutes of this match, many of the returning players from the first team looked a bit out of sync. As would kind of be expected. In particular to me, José Neto found himself out of position, making some errant passes. Hopefully they'll get cleaned up with some time and some chemistry. Benfica B did put together some opportunities in the first half as they maintained 70% possession and took 9 shots, but only forced 1 save from the keeper. Portimonense was the more aggressive of the two sides in this first half as they racked up 13 fouls as well as 13 tackles for just 5 and 4 from Benfica B. As we get down towards the end of the half, focus begins to wane, and I think this is a lot of what we're going to take from this game. That young group from Seixal, Anicio Cabral sees yellow in the 38th, Bernardes in the 41st, and after losing the ball and reacting out of frustration in a number of sequences, Portimonense returns the favor as Amorim is shown yellow in the 44th after taking down Gonçalo Moreira just outside the half circle. but Benfica's unable to capitalize on the free kick and goes down 1-0 at halftime. Mike, what are your thoughts on this first half from Benfica B?
It was a little bit of a shot of reality, probably, because things had gone so well in the first 2 weeks, and Portimonense are a good team. They're a good team. I noticed on the goal, I was watching Gabriel Indiu a little closer, and he was a little, if I remember correctly, he misjudged that ball in the air, and it led to the goal eventually. But I was impressed with how he came back from that afterwards. For a young player to make a mistake like that, a lot of times they hang their head, and they're not the same the rest of the match. But he picked himself up, and he went on to have a good match from there forward. I like the way Benfica B move the ball. And some of that is Portimonense allowing them to do so. But they do move it well. And I agree with you on José Neto be a little out of sync, but I thought Banjaki was really good on the inverse. I thought at the other side that Banjaki was good, and I know a lot of people are clamoring for him to just be made into the second choice right back on the first team. But I think it's really important he keeps playing. If he becomes the second choice right back and he goes from playing 90 minutes to playing 20, he's going to drop off a little bit in his development. So I'd rather hold off on him until he's needed to actually take the mantle. Because if something happens now to Ba at this point, I think he is the next. He should be the next choice. Unless
I think he has to be at this point.
Unless you go to a convert, you go to Tomás Araújo or to Leandro Barreiros played there in an emergency. I don't know what Marcos Silva would do.
It's going to be harshness at some point, right?
Hey, probably if he can get healthy. He didn't even travel to Denmark for tomorrow, so it's been a tough start to the season for the captain. But I did like that. This was my first really good look at Gonçalo Moreira. And I really liked what I saw from him.
It's a good player.
This was the first I really sat and paid attention to I've heard the name plenty of times. I've seen the clips, but watching his awareness, his spacing, his positional play is all very good for a kid that's so young. So it wasn't Benfica B's best start. Like you said, it was before they could really knew what was going on. They found themselves behind. But again, these are the matches that are important in the development of the players. If they come on the pitch and they win easy every week, they're not developing. Even if it's a team they should be doing better against, to fall behind and to force them to change that gear, to change that mentality, and to look to get things going right and to correct the problems, I think that's valuable to these young players. And like you said, I think Nelson Verissimo is in the ideal role for himself, managing this side.
Right. No, and he proves that, as we get into the second half. So he's not happy with the first half, suffering that, like we've seen a lot of times from the first team. Sorry, I got a three-legged dog that wants to go get to the room.
No worries.
But as he mentioned in his post-match flash interview that there's a lot of suffering in that first half, and so Verissimo is going to mix it up, right? So he brings on 3 upfront substitutes to start the second half. Cabral and Bernardes both go to the bench as they're replaced by Francisco Silva and Tomás Soares, which turns out to be just a brilliant substitution. And then Tiago Freitas heads to the bench in favor of Olivia Tomé. The possession story is similar in the second half. I think it's 69-31 instead of 70-30. But again, Portimonense is letting Benfica B play with the ball, but there just seems to be a lot more fluidity, a lot more purpose from Benfica in the second half. In the 49th minute, Gonçalo Moreira takes a long strike, but it's right at the keeper who saves it into the stands. But it's, again, a good sign of things to come as we start getting some momentum. Gonçalo Indiu has a shot saved as we get later into the match.
Yeah, that was a rocket.
He
caught all of it.
Absolutely, every bit of it, and after he had to recover on a couple of poor touches and then another one to come, but again, he's got that, he seems to have that goldfish memory, right? Which is just so important for a player at that position. But the quality is obviously there. I'd be really excited to see as he continues to bounce back from his injury. But a couple of those that could have been Portimonense goals that he recovers, and Diogo Ferreira, again, his quality showed in a lot of that to force some contested shots that couldn't hit the back of the net for Portimonense. But the breakthrough for Benfica finally comes in the 83rd as we capitalize on one of the 10 earned corner kicks in this match. It's Gonçalo Moreira sending in the corner far post where Gonçalo Indio is able to elevate, gets his head to it, sends the ball back across to the near post where halftime substitute Tomas Suarez is able to calmly but firmly place the ball in the back of the net, bringing the Encarnados back level at 1-1. I mean, it was just really well earned to get back into the match. And then just moments later, they have an opportunity to take all 3 points as Olivier Tomé takes a pass on the left side of the box, but striking with his favored left foot towards the far post, shot misses right. And as I was watching, I made a note that, a right-footed strike with just the slightest of curl, would have gone in, would have sealed the deal. But he just so favors that left foot. And but again, I think these are things to learn.
Yeah. A lot of lefties have that issue.
Right. So I think that's, that's something to go back and look at tape. And it's like, look, that's some time on the training pitch that, is the difference in wins and losses. So, so again, it's eventually seen out to a 1-1 draw. And again, despite the massive difference in possession, right, which a lot of that's tactic, it felt like a very fair result. This is a very good Portimonense side. Benfica B did not play well in the first half, looked a whole lot better in the second. And as mentioned earlier, both in the flash interviews from Nelson Verissimo and from the captain João Fonseca, they talked to the two different halves, more open playing, less suffering in that second half, led to that comeback and should lead to good things to come for both the development of these players, as well as the results on the score sheet. And again, hopefully a good opportunity for Bernardes and Cabral, from the bench to kind of settle in, not to let the emotion and frustration lead to poor decisions. And again, this is the type of play we've seen out of Portimonense in the first league too, right? I mean, and so we're talking about, again, when we talk about the B teams, these are kids, widely. So I think, as much as the result is great, learning from some of these things to prepare to, to not let your emotions get away from you and to stay within yourself. So I'm looking forward to seeing as these players gel. Again, we're just now getting the guys that we think will probably be the starters most of the time moving forward, how they look and how that development continues.
Yeah. So overall, I'm really pleased with what I've seen so far in the couple of games that they have played. We've seen seasons in the past where we start towards the bottom and have to start kind of playing later on and start actually having to stress over results to stay out of that drop zone. But so far, this is about as good of a start as you can ask for a B team.
Yeah, I think we kind of talk about. I'll talk about it later too, as it pertains to Porto B. But yeah, just getting to where. And again, we haven't mentioned it yet, but for anybody that's watching that hasn't paid much attention to Liga 2, there are 3 teams in this league that cannot be promoted to the first league, right? So Benfica B, Sporting and Porto B cannot be promoted. So if they win, only one of them's ever won the league. Porto B won it I think in 2012, 2013, something like that. So yes, they could win the championship, but they're staying in Liga 2. So that's obviously the goal is not to go up, right? It's just to not go down and to develop players. Right. So I think that, taking that off of it, also not playing, some of the players will play in Taça matches, but these teams not, being subject to having to play Taça matches as well. I think it just gives them an opportunity to really focus on developing and not worrying about, match congestion, calendar congestion and whatnot. So anything else you want to hit on Benfica B this match or how the squad's progressing before we look at the rest of match day 3?
No, I said some of it already. I was impressed with Benjaki. I thought he was good. Gonçalo Moreira, I was impressed with. Also the goalkeeper. I want to give him a shout too. He made some difficult saves in this one to keep it at 1-0. And again, I know we kind of talked about it last week, but I can see why it was easier to let André Gomes go to Casa Pia, right? Casa Pia, before when you have this guy in the pipeline and he looks great through these first 3 matches.
It's going to be really curious, to see. We keep talking about, what's going to happen at the first team. I really feel like we got to get through being sold. I just, the idea of him sticking around on the bench where he's obviously very, disheartened. He's, disgruntled and, he wants to be, even when he's starting, he doesn't always look like he's particularly happy. Right.
Exactly.
And maybe that's cultural. Maybe that's, whatever. But, if he doesn't, then I guess he's our backup if something happens with some Suarez.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see Diogo stay with the B team as long as we can. It wouldn't surprise me to see him get a call up for if we get a favorable result for a Taça match or whatever to get an opportunity with the first team. But it just would be nice to see the development continue. But I don't think he's too far away from a call up. I think this time next year he's with the first team, and it's just a matter of whether he is the guy, because Samu's either moved on or just a really, really good backup.
Right. Yeah. We'll see how they manage it, because it's rare to have two really young goalkeepers, and I still consider Samu young. In your line, I think that the Trubin thing, even if they can find somewhere to loan him to, would I don't think he can stay in this role as the backup goalkeeper. For him, for his own valuation, that's not going to be good, because he's going to go large stretches without playing, and goalkeepers need to play. And this again, the salary he's on, even if Benfica are stuck paying the salary, it would be better for him to be playing somewhere else and paying his salary, so he's at least playing and at least keeping his value. And maybe he can show something, and someone will come in with an offer in January or something if he goes on loan or in the summer. But if he just sits all season, I don't see that's going to brew into probably a bad situation. So that right now, like you said, that is something I think that has to be at the top of the club's priority list right now, is finding a home for him.
Right. And I mean, we got about a week left in the window. And I mean, even if it's, even if it is selling him at something of a loss, with the sell on clause or whatever. And and if he turns into the next Svilar leaving, I mean, it is what it is, right?
It happens, but
it's not going to, but it does not appear it's going to happen here. It feels like that ship, especially with this manager, has kind of sailed. Right. And so, I guess that's one of the things I look at from the first team. I just kind of like to see that chapter ended, while we still have a little bit of time to go, grab a guy that, a little older vet to be on the,
to be a backup.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you go and just sign somebody now you've got three keepers, and a really good guy coming up from the B team, like Trubin's just got to move on. So I think so. I've been beating that horse for a couple of weeks, but it's just, I hope next week when we come on, we're not talking about it. That something's come through and happened.
One thing will be for sure, the window will be closed and we won't have to.
We can move on and just talk about matches. Yeah. No, that would be great. So, all right, well, moving on to the rest of match day 3. The other match on Friday, noon kickoff here, 8:15 in Portugal, at the Estádio João Cardoso, who's Tondela versus Académica. This was a fantastic match. Fantastic match. And what an atmosphere. I mean, front of over 4,200 in attendance. It was over 80% capacity. And, thanks in no small part to that boisterous traveling contingent from Coimbra, who more than filled the stands behind that East goal. It was a fantastic atmosphere on a Friday night for Liga 2 action in the Viseu district.
Yeah, they're reignited. The Académica fans have been reborn.
No, and it's going to be real interesting to see home matches and how that attendance picks up as the season moves on, especially if they keep winning. And they've got a barn burner coming up this week, and I'm looking forward to that one for sure. So again, informed Liga 2 leader Académica is versus the 7th place Tondela side, who split their first 2 matches. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your preference, this match in a lot of ways turned into more of a situation of I went to the circus and a football match broke out.
Right.
It was just wild. In that first 25 minutes, the two sides exchanged blows and chances on goal. None better than the 25th minute for Tondela and Hugo Felix. That is João Felix's brother, right? A former Benfica B player. He sent a long cross in from the left flank in front of goal to fellow forward Cascavel, who can't quite get ahead on it, and it's cleared out, but a very dangerous attack for Tondela midway through the first half. And that's really when things start getting weird. In the 29th minute, an Académica attack fizzles out after a shot takes a deflection and goes into the stands in the direction of the corner flag. It's initially indicated as going out to touch as a throw for Tondela, then it's overturned as a goal kick to Tondela, but then eventually referee Claudio Pereira settles on a corner kick to Académica. And amid the protests and confusion, the corner is taken and flicked on rather flicked on rather harmlessly by Briosa midfielder Afonso Rodrigues, but it takes a deflection off Tondela's Ricard probably would have been a handball if it hadn't gone to the back of the net. Bounces into the net for an own goal, and it's 1-0 to Academica. Amidst the here's what is important. I didn't catch it when it happened. I had to go back and try and catch it, and I had to listen to some of the radio broadcasts to figure out what happened. But amidst the celebration, the protest following the goal, I miss it based on the flash interviews after the match. Most of the Sport TV crew also missed it. And Ricardo Costa, the Tondela coach, also missed it. But Tondela keeper Canizares picks up a yellow card, which, as we get further in the match, will prove really important. The rest of that first half and the first 20 minutes of the second half are mostly uneventful until, again, another bizarre scene in the 69th. Academica French striker Ilias Faure presses and harasses and slightly pushes the previously booked Tondela keeper Canizares. And as he tries to throw the ball out of the back in an attempt to draw relief from the referee, he falls, trips, and dives. And in doing so, his arm flops forward, striking Faure in the face. And Claudio Pereira doesn't hesitate, produces a second yellow card for Canizares, who's sent off for an early shower. If this had been a straight red card, I think VAR would have overturned this. Ultimately, it was a relatively competitive match. Is thrown completely off the rails with 20 minutes remaining. Did you get a chance to watch this?
I saw the highlights. I think I missed this part. Didn't seem to get clipped into the highlight reel. But
they did not. They did not, or the card earlier. So I mean, fortunately, I was watching this one, and so I was able to kind of call back to it. But yeah, just absolutely bizarre. And I think as exciting as it is for the way that it turned out for Academica, I think we lost a chance at a really, really intriguing finish to this match. If they'd have remained 11-11, but
right.
So a man down, and at this point the frustration's caught up to Tondela, and eventually they lose all composure in the 73rd minute, believing they were hard done, but by not being awarded a free kick. Careless and dangerous tackles by both Hugo Felix and Cicero of Tondela earned yellows apiece. Still, Tondela nearly equalized in the 77th as substitute forward Tomane lines up for a point-blank bicycle kick on a ball that bounced around the box, and it's just narrowly parried wide by Academica keeper Carlos Alves. And then in the 79th minute, it's back to Tondela frustration as Cicero whiffs on a ball in a ground duel with Academica captain Leandro Sanch, and in response, kicks him. Just straight kicks him in the knee. Immediately spotted by the line judge, who signals Pereira to show a second yellow, and now Tondela's reduced to 9. The air mostly taken out of the match, but Academica not satisfied to simply see out the 1-0 result. They continue to push forward, but ultimately it's on a counterattack in the 90th +5, where Briosa substitute midfielder Rui Gomes beats the last defender on the left side of the box, fires in a shot that bounces off the right post, but it comes right back to him, strikes the rebound into the back of the net. Yeah, putting the match well out of reach at 2-0, and the Academica supporters go wild as the goal happens right in front of them.
Right in front of them, yeah. That end was packed with Academica supporters.
No, absolutely. 2 minutes later, the whistle blows for full time. The celebration continues until the stewards have to force the fans from Coimbra to make their way to the exit. This was fun to just hang out and watch the flash. I mean, they were just going wild, and they all but turned off the lights to finally get everybody out and head for the turnstiles. But Tondela is going to feel hard done, as they were often on the front foot for the first 3 quarters of this match. Regardless, it's 3 points to Academica to sit on top of the table with 9, and Tondela remain on 3. Moving on to, if you had anything else you wanted to add to.
No, this was, like I said, the highlight. This looked like a match I would have wanted to be at. It just the atmosphere looked electric for a second division game, and it felt like a first division environment, especially with some of the environments that exist in the first division in Portugal. This is way stronger than any of those.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely entertaining from my couch. I could only imagine being in the stands. It was just electric. So moving on to the early that 11 a.m. kickoff in Portugal on Saturday morning at the Estádio do Mar in Matosinhos, Leixões versus União de Leiria. I almost wish I'd gotten up, because the next couple matches, it just seemed to be lacking goals, but this one definitely didn't. It's been a struggling Leiria side to this point in the season. Leixões is looking to build on a strong match day 2 win versus Tondela, but it's the home side. And Leixões starting strong in the 4th minute. They're able to maintain possession on a duel just outside the penalty box, and Claudio Araújo finds Honduran forward Brian Roches narrowly onside on a run to the penalty spot, where he calmly puts Leixões up 1-0. just 11 minutes later, it's União de Leiria equalizing as Juan Munoz scores for the second consecutive week. I think we're going to hear his name a lot this season, but scores unassisted. But after fellow Spaniard right winger Pablo Fernandez's header is saved but not cleared, any further than the crashing Munoz, he puts it away 1-1 in the 15th. In the 23rd, Leiria would take the lead as this time it's Fernandez not being denied on the header after a beautiful cross from Jair da Silva sets Fernandez up at point blank range, and Leixões keeper Stefanovic is fooled and has no chance. It's 2-1 to Leiria, and that is the score as we head to halftime. In the 57th minute, things go from bad to worse for the Matosinhos side when Amadou Balde has shown his second yellow, holding up the Leiria attacker in a sent-off. Moments later on the ensuing free kick, it'll be Captain Munoz with the assist this time, fighting the head of center back Marcelo, who skillfully heads it towards the upper left corner, giving Leiria a commanding 3-1 lead. In the 75th, the wheels finish falling off for Leixões when a careless turnover of the ball just outside of their own box is taken by Leiria's Coquinho, who passes on to Congolese forward Samuel Natanda, who had been subbed on less than a minute earlier, and he makes no mistake, sending it past Stefanovic to make it 4-1. In the 90th +2, Leixões get a consolation prize when referee Andre Narciso points to the spot, and Paraíso steps up, calmly sends his penalty kick up the middle to cut the deficit to 4-2. But Leiria gets their desperately needed first victory and first points of the season. Next match is going to be 6 a.m. here on the West Coast.
Yeah, the Sunday morning special.
Right. Vizela hosting Amarante. Amarante makes the short 40-minute drive to the Braga district looking for their first point in Liga 2 history, while Vizela is trying to race that match 2 drubbing at the hands of Portimonense. In the 8th minute, Amarante gets a free kick near the right corner flag. What had a free kick near the right corner flag was headed wide by defender Feliciano. In the 17th minute, a long ball played out of the Vizela end and one in the box by Matias Lacava lays it off in front of goal where it scrambled wide. Matias was easily the most active player in this match for Vizela, creating numerous opportunities but just couldn't break through. In the 62nd, it's Amarante on the attack with the ball played wide to João Ricardo, crossed in front to Melvin Costa, who sends it just wide of goal. In the 74th minute, back and forth play ends with a Vizela shot parried just wide of goal on a shot in front from the top of the box by Australian substitute Anthony Carter. And the 90th +4, one last chance for Vizela to take the 3 points. Long range shot by substitute forward Angelo Neto goes well wide, and the whistle blows for full time, and it ends 0-0. Amarante earned their historic first point in Liga 2 history in unspectacular fashion, but they continue to show the ability to compete, but just not push through with a win yet at this level. More to come on this side is we preview the match day 4 tie with Benfica B. But yeah, I mean, they've looked better than the results have shown to this point. But as a team that's just been promoted, they're going to have to start putting some points up to avoid going back down.
Yeah, it's part of that adjustment for going from one level to another, and they've been on a very rapid ascent. 3 seasons ago, they were in the amateur level, so I don't think they're retaining the entire squad season after season, so there's probably a lot of changeover as well. I did notice in the Anthony Carter was on the ball a lot, and I remember him from his time at Benfica B vaguely. I vaguely remember his time at Benfica B some seasons ago, but yeah, he had a few. It looked like he was going to snatch one, but he was unable to. But it's good to see him still kicking around, still playing, still finding a job in the league,
finding opportunities, absolutely.
And finding opportunities to keep playing the game. Yeah. So, it was a 0-0, but I think it was a fair result. And like you said, Amarante earned their first Liga 2 points, and they have Benfica B this coming week. Sneak peek coming later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So then we get into the again, the 10 a.m. match here, 6 p.m. in Portugal. Let's spin the wheel of where we send Lusitania Barossa to host this week. We see, this week we're just going 20 minutes up the road to Estádio Luís Filipe Menezes at the CTG Jorge Costa, the training grounds for football.
Training grounds, right? Sportive, yep.
Yeah, so it looks like they were able to fix the penalty spot. I didn't see the massively destroyed grass this week. So, but again, as they now host us, the Portugal Cup holders Torreense, in a much anticipated match, and that more than lived up to the billing. Some signs of fireworks to come. 2 touches and 8 seconds into the match, Lusitania Barossa earns a free kick just outside of the Torreense penalty area. but the free kick hits the wall and bounces harmlessly away. For most of the rest of the first half, the match settles into some back and forth possession, but few real chances until Lusitania La Rosa earns a corner kick in the 38th minute after a weak clearance of the initial cross. 31-year-old midfielder Paulinho, with the candidate for goal of the week, takes a first-time shot on the volley, buries it past the outstretched arms of Torreense keeper Adriel, and Lusitania La Rosa is up 1-0. There's a flurry of chances in the dying minutes of the first half, including an impressive run from the very active Haitian Danny Jean for Torreense, who I had to look up and see if he was with the squad that went to the World Cup. He absolutely was not. And again, I think most of Haiti's team at the World Cup were, French players who could trace their ancestry back to Haiti. And I think there was something like 70 French players, mostly from the Paris. I don't know if you saw that.
I have the mistake when I'm doing the Liga 3 report, and when I see someone from Haiti or I'll say international, and I'm like, I better double check on that.
Right.
Sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not.
I just, I've been pretty impressed with his play, for Torreense so far, but yeah, just, there's, I guess, enough French players to play for Haiti. They don't have to worry about it. But anyway, an impressive run from Danny Jean, whose cross takes an awkward deflection. The ball is just punched away. Moments later, Lusitania La Rosa, striker and league leading scorer heading into the match day, João Santos, has a shot deflected as well, but the keeper makes an off-balance save, and we go to the locker room. Lusitania La Rosa up 1-0. Fast forwarding to the 72nd minute, and Lusitania La Rosa would double their lead on another set piece as Francisco Machado sends a ball in from 30 yards, and it's redirected into the corner of the net by the off-frustrated Senegalese forward Saliou Mandeng. Perhaps this performance will help him settle into Portuguese football, having only moved from the lower levels of Spain in June. Again, I think, real active player who's, got some ability, but I think he's just still trying to adjust and has been pretty frustrated to this point. At this point, it appeared inevitable that the informed La Rosa side, with the traveling home home support of the fans, and they did. They had a great crowd. That came and were there. That they'd see it out. But for the second week in a row, it's Torreense mounting a comeback late in the second half from a 2-0 deficit. In the 82nd minute, Torreense less than 5 minutes after that, in the 77th, Torreense's French defender would find himself alone in front of goal after a wild scramble for the ball, cutting the lead in half with a punch into the corner of an empty net. We're at 2-1 in the final quarter of an hour. In the 82nd, it's Torreense completing the comeback as Spanish substitute forward Manuel Poço takes a pass outside the box on the right side, dribbles towards the center, and scores on a left-footed blast from 25 yards away with just the slightest deflection off a Lusitania La Rosa defender. And that's how this match will end. 2-2, both sides taking a point. Both sides feeling they could have walked away with 3, and both sides looking to move up the table in the coming weeks. It's the first time dropping points for Lusitania La Rosa, while Torreense, despite the show of resiliency coming back the past 2 matches, has yet to notch their first win. But I do think Torreense is moving in the right direction if they can put a full match together, right? I mean, they're they showed well coming back against Penafiel last week. Lusitania La Rosa, this week, and as they move forward next week, hosting Vizela, we'll see if they can go ahead and put a full match together and earn 3. So moving on to early on Sunday, up to Trás-os-Montes, it's Chaves hosting AVS SAD. This is the match between the club without a point hosting the club without a soul. as relegation watch looms for both of these sides. It's Chaves taking the lead just before halftime as Brazilian midfielder Marcos André takes advantage of a whiffed header by AVS defender Davi Scheintz and curls in the opening salvo. Chaves has a sign of life, leading 1-0 at the half. AVS comes out of the break motivated not to fall to the cellar dwellers from the far north, and its former Benfica striker Rodrigo Pinho, with a strong header from the edge of the 8-yard box in the 49th, pulling AVS side level. At this point, watching, I had to rewind a couple of times to make sure I wasn't watching the same highlight, because in the 61st minute, it's Pinho once again getting on the score sheet with a headed goal from nearly the exact same spot. This time he heads it at the feet of the keeper, and Pinho's brace gives AVS the 2-1 advantage. In the 69th minute, Pinho narrowly misses his hat trick as he's played into space in front of goal. And from just inside the area, his shot misses right. So he still has some things left from his time at Benfica. In the 77th minute, Chaves will penalize wastefulness as Wilson Tavares sets up midfielder Catatau for a blast from the edge of the penalty box. Catatau, from the edge of the penalty box, and Schulz equalizes 2-2 with less than a quarter hour to play. In the 85th minute, AVS Spanish keeper Haboyu makes a fingertip save to keep the match level, and that's how it will end. Schulz and AVS splitting a point apiece, both lurking near the bottom of the table. We head back to the Porto District, 6 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. match at Penafiel. It's the Estádio 25 de Abril as Penafiel hosts Sporting B. This match, can the Baby Lions stay perfect on the road against the Penafiel side that collapsed late versus Torreense in match day 2? Penafiel's Swedish-Spanish striker Max Svensson quickly becoming one of my favorite players in this league. The son of Swedish handball goalkeeper Thomas Svensson, but born in Barcelona.
Well, there's the connection. Now we
understand it. Now we understand. That all makes sense. So he makes his mark in this match as he was dangerous from whistle to whistle, just a week removed from an excellent showing against Torreense. In the 23rd minute, Svensson is already proving dangerous as he takes the ball clear up the left flank, sends a dangerous cross into the path of João Pinto. No, not that João Pinto, or the other one who played for Benfica in the early 2000s. I got his card up there, João Manuel Pinto, who recently coached 4th Division side Machique from Madeira, or the other one who you talked about the other night, currently on form at Paços Ferreira.
There's a number of them.
A lot of João Pinto, man. But the 23-year-old midfielder from Penafiel. Anyway, this João Pinto nearly gives Penafiel the early lead, but tumbles with Sporting B goalkeeper Guillaume Pires, and the ball goes out as Sporting B is given a free kick. 5 minutes later, Penafiel defender Claudio Silva tries his luck from 20 yards, but his shot drifts wide right. In the 39th minute, Sporting B defender Eduardo Felicissimo, which is a guy I've been watching, and if Mauricio or Derek have any insight on this guy, I'd really be interested. Has spent some time with the first team in the preseason, but he commits an unforced error here as he turns to presumably pass the ball back to the keeper, but weakly kicks it just out of reach where who, Max Svensson, is lurking, steals the ball, lays it off to an attacking Davo, who eases the ball past the keeper, putting Penafiel up 1-0, and that score will hold into halftime. Again, Felicissimo has been one I've been keeping an eye on, but it seems like if I'm noticing him doing something, it's been a mistake. So again, young, we'll see what happens. That back line for Sporting B to this point has probably been the highlight of the squad, but a couple of falters here really kind of hurt him for in the match against Penafiel. In the 62nd minute, it's a brilliant bit of build-up for Sporting B with a sequence that sees touches from Tonlongu to Atanasio into the box to Gabriel Silva onto a rushing Moru Kotu, who lays it off to Samuel Just, but the finishing touch just wasn't there as the ball goes harmlessly left to the post and Penafiel remains on top. And in the 75th minute, guess who? Mr. Ikea Paella himself, Max Svensson, nearly doubles the Penafiel advantage as Andre Schulz passes back from the inline to a charging Svensson at the edge of the box, who blasts a shot over the outreach hands of the keeper, but it hits the bottom side of the crossbar and the shot caroms away. But in the 87th minute, Svensson would not be denied as he gets on the end of a long ball in the box, recovers it just inches off of the end line, takes one touch and blasts home the goal from the tightest of angles. Hands down the goal of the week in Liga 2, securing the victory over the previously unbeaten and untied Sporting B, moving Penafiel up the table with a very hard-earned 4 points on the young season. Again, just a great performance by Penafiel in this one. Max Svensson is really going to be one to watch. And it will just be really interesting to see. He's played some time in the second division in Spain, moved around a little bit here, but I'd be curious to see if he, especially in the winter window, if he draws any interest from first league sides, as a guy that can reinforce, the attack, especially as injuries and match day congestion picks up. So now we'll move on to the Monday matches, heading down to the Algarve at the Estádio São Luís. It's Farense, and I have to be careful with this. Farense and Farense. I have an issue saying them, but yes, it's Farense, the team from Faro down in the Algarve, is going to host Felgueiras. Farense starting hot, looks to hand Felgueiras their first loss after starting with 2 draws. But it'll be Felgueiras with a shocking hot start in this match, having a dangerous free kick saved in the 10th minute, and then taking the lead in the 20th minute on a goal by Spanish forward Mario Rivas. Midfielder Francisco França serves an excellent ball to Rivas just outside of the 8-yard box, who takes it first time high into the net, and it's 1-0 to Felgueiras, whose traveling fans are now really enjoying their Algarvian holiday in the last days of summer. The second half would see Farense battle back, applying constant pressure to the visitors from the Porto district. And in the 65th minute, Mateus would recover a lost ball deep in the Felgueiras end, dribble across the half circle, and fire a left-footed shot squarely past the diving keeper for his second golazo in as many weeks, hot off the gorgeous free kick in match day 2 against Porto B. Midway through the second half, we're knotted at 1. In the 78th minute, Farense substitute striker Tiago Leite's header will glance off of the post, but will reach full-time level 1-1. Farense dropping points for the first time this season leaves Académica alone at the top of the table, while Felgueiras remains the most consistent side in Liga 2, 3 matches, 3 draws, 3 points. Mm-hmm. On our final match on Monday, sees at the Estádio Marcelino Castro in Santa Maria da Feira, it's Feirense and Porto B, as they finish match day 3 with a battle of bottom third sides and a gut check time for the junior Tripeiros. Mm-hmm. In a match that lacked much real excitement, one moment of brilliance decided this tie as Porto B earns a corner kick in the 21st minute. Denise Rodrigues sends the cross into the head of Martin Cunha on a set piece direct off of the training pitch. Cunha's header flies into the back of the net, and Porto B lead 1-0 midway through the first half. Little action of note the rest of the way, but Feirense does mount a sustained attack in the last 20 minutes or so of the match, with the only victim being the advertising board left of goal being dislodged by numerous errant Feirense shots, and Porto B finally get off the schneid in the 2026-27 season and notch 3 points. So I think this is huge for Porto B to get themselves a little bit of breathing room. Again, not a fantastic effort. That set piece was fantastic. It was, I went back and watched that 3 or 4 times, but was just very well executed, and so there's definitely some of that. Some of that has moved down from the first team, right? I mean, it's really more about the collective, more about, the group effort and being very disciplined. So I think as they move on and try and settle in, I think, and again, I think even just, from my standpoint, I'd like to see Porto B mid-table somewhere. I don't want to see a bunch of first-team players, coming down and
brought down, right?
League, right?
Let's the season.
Yeah, I'd rather, and from my standpoint, be able to watch what this development is, see what Porto B has in their, or what Porto has in their B team, system, as opposed to seeing bench players, come down.
Exactly.
And play in this league. So. You got anything to add? Any of these matches? It was a great week.
It was a great week, and again, a lot of these are hard to predict. You're never really sure where the big result is going to come from. Like you, I think the B teams need to stay in the safe spaces. While it'd be fun to watch one of our rivals struggle to stay up, it's really not. It's not in the best for Portuguese football either, if I want to be honest. Although I can say that I watched Sporting B for 3 seasons in Liga 3, and there's not much difference from what they're doing. It was pretty consistent. I think the levels are closer than people, and even to the bottom half of the first division. I don't think there's a big difference between the top of the Liga 3, the entirety of Liga 2, and the bottom half of Liga 1. I think that group there is all fairly comparable to each other. One season one might be stronger, one season another, but by and large the level is pretty consistent. I think I'm looking forward to Feirense and La Rosa's derby at some point later this season. They're very, very close to each other. They played each other in a promotion playoff a few seasons ago. So I think that will be, of course, who knows where La Rosa's home match will be played in that derby. Maybe it'll be in Feirense's stadium because they've used that as a home field before too. So who knows?
No, absolutely. So the same, just kind of seeing how the seeing now how the table is starting to come together. There's going to be a lot of movement, through this, but just really interesting. A side like Penafiel that I was, you look at 1 point on 2 through the first 2 match days. They looked really impressive, and I don't know if that's more about Penafiel or if that's. Anyway, we'll have to see how that all comes together. So I think we'll go ahead and move on to the table here. So through 3 match days, Académica sits alone on top with 9 points. with a six goal differential, sitting firmly in that promotion spot. The second promotion spot currently sitting to Futebol on 7 points, a goal differential of 3, and having scored one more goal than Lusitania La Rosa, also on 7 points with a +3 goal differential. And Portimonense as well at 7 points with a 3-point goal differential, but having scored 4 goals. Benfica B sits on that line as well, 7 points with a 2-point goal differential. Sporting B comes in at 6 with sitting on 6 points. Penafiel and Vizela at 7th and 8th. Penafiel with +1 goal differential. União de Leiria and Felgueiras both on 3 points. Leiria with a win and 2 losses. Felgueiras with those three draws. The bottom half of the table at 11th and 12th, Leixões and Tondela on 3 points, the -2. Porto B now up, out of the relegation zone on 3 points with a -3 goal differential. Torreense and AVS SAD both sitting on 2 points just outside of the relegation zone, the -1 goal differential, and the 3 sides with 1 point sitting in the playoff and the 2 relegation spots, Amarante, Feirense, and Chaves. I think we're going to see a lot of Chaves in that area. It'd be very interesting to see if they can grab a gear here. But even in pulling that draw, I think they got a lot of work to do if they're going to stay up in Liga 2. The goal scorers, it's going to be a short list. I'm not going to get into everybody that has one, but we have a group of 7 that have scored 2 goals so far. João Santos for Lusitania La Rosa, Juan Munoz for União de Leiria, the previously glossed on Max Svensson, Penafiel with 2. Mateus Feirense, very impressive, with 2 goals as well. Davu as well for Penafiel with 2. Gonçalo Moreira with 2 for Benfica B on the 2 penalties from match day 2. And Rodrigo Pinho, the former Benfica player, with 2 goals for AVS SAD. So that leads us into match day 4. Yeah, so we'll starting on Friday, just the one match. União de Leiria hosts Tondela. On Saturday, the early match, Portimonense hosting Leixões. I think everybody's actually playing in their own stadium this week, so I don't have to get too crazy, right? Académica will host Lusitania La Rosa. Actually, I take that back. Torreense is hosting Vizela, so I guess we might need to see if they've been moved around or not. But that's the only other one there. I'd be a little curious to check on as I try to get back one more spot to the week. Moving into Sunday, that early match. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to set my alarm. I'm not sure there's going to be a replay. Amarante host Benfica B at 3 a.m. Pacific time. That will be. We'll get the coffee going early. AVS SAD hosting Feirense. Yeah, Sporting
that's a
B.
6-pointer. And at the bottom, at the end of the table, that could be massively important.
No, absolutely. As you got 2 sides that are hanging out in that. AVS sitting on 2 and Feirense with 1.
On 1,
So a win here really moves you into a bit of a comfortable spot for a while, and a loss is just gonna leave you down in that relegation zone for another week. Sporting B will be hosting Feirense at Alcochete. Again, can Sporting B bounce back from taking that punch to the jaw, and is there something there or not? I think their first 2 matches were against sides that just did not have near the quality, and Feirense is going to give them a real run in Alcochete. Porto B is going to be home to Penafiel, which should also be a very very interesting match. And then with no Monday matches, these 3 10 a.m. on the Pacific, 1 p.m. on the East Coast, and 6 p.m. in Portugal match. Felgueiras will host Chaves. So people doing a whole lot of watching highlights as all those kick off at the same time on Sunday. But I mean, outside of the Benfica B match, I mean, you kind of mentioned the AVS Feirense match. Académica and La Rosa is going to be that's
going to be a cracker.
Right. So really looking forward to that match. And then I guess, on as a preview for the Amarante match, you've had a chance to watch them, a fair amount in their time in Liga 3. I guess what should we expect? It just has not produced the results yet this season. What should we expect to see out of Amarante next week as they host?
I think they're going to be well organized, as you can expect from most of these teams. They're going to be well organized. They're probably going to have some difficulty finding the final piece because this is why they are where they are right now in the table. It's that final piece. But playing at home, I think they're going to be very, very hard for Benfica B to break down. They're going to probably allow Benfica B to have more than a fair share of the ball. They're going to be happy to sit in their deeper lying lines and try to cut off passing lanes, wait for the young kids to make some sort of mistake and try to pounce on it with a strong counterattack. Uh, I don't know who, if any, of the Benfica B players traveled to Denmark today for tomorrow's match. I don't know how that's going to affect them playing already on Sunday, right? Or is it Saturday?
This will be Sunday morning,
Sunday.
early.
This is
Yeah.
Sunday.
Well,
So
even Portugal will be Sunday morning. So
yeah, but
quick turnaround.
yeah, Benfica are going to have to find the back of the net, and they're going to have to. It's going to be a big game for the back four to continue to stay cohesive with each other. With Gabriel Indio, needing to have another big game because I thought, again, that is assist on that tying goal was huge for him, having had the blunder earlier in the match. I want to see something from Anísio Cabral here.
Yeah.
I really want to see something here. It's time to zero in and focus on the job that's in front of you, not worrying about what's outside of his control. Because I think that's what's from thousands of miles away. It's
Right.
what I would hypothesize is going on is he's concerning himself with things outside of his control. You can't control whether or not Marco Silva is going to pick you and put you in the team. You're given this opportunity to play at this level, prove it here, put it on the field, and eventually give him no choice but to pull you up. That's the only way I think he can look at it right now. But he's got to get some chemistry with his teammates too, get it back. He's had it before. He's got to get it back. But all in all, this will be a fun game to follow, and hopefully, the B guys can continue to grow and continue on their trajectory because I think they're right now looking for this early of a stage in the season. They're looking fairly put together already. They're looking like they're further along than maybe I would have expected this early on.
Agreed.
So I'd love to see them build on that and continue to move forward.
Yeah, and I think this is a match that Anísio needs to find his way onto the score sheet here, right? And but despite despite their record in the league, Amarante has only given up 3 goals. This is a team that's going to play tough across the back. They're not going to be easy to break down. They're it's probably going to resemble a lot of what we see from the first team in the first division. You're going to have they're going to sit back and park a little bit, so they're going to have to break down. The good news I think for Benfica B is that they have the quality and the depth of forwards and midfielders to break down when they park. And I just want to see him play with his head up. I want to see him play with a little bit of a little bit of excitement, a little bit of ginga, and just get out there that exigencia, like maybe the second most misunderstood word in the Portuguese language. But I mean,
no kidding.
but just but really just see him get out there and do what needs to be done, to help his team win. So I think he scores a couple goals here in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully he can turn things around, and there's going to be some opportunities for that. But there's no time like the present. Early morning match, but let's see some excitement and some drive out of these boys. And like I said, we don't see lineups out for the first team yet to see who all is traveling to Denmark, but I think it's going to be an opportunity for guys to get out there and really prove their place not only on this team but their development for the next level.
Right. Yeah.
So that's all I've got for match day 3. Looking forward to an exciting match day 4. Kicks off again on Friday. With the Lady Tondela match, which should be great, and really looking forward to that Academica La Rosa match. At 6 a.m. here on the West Coast. So I'll be setting my timer for that and have coffee good and going. And
it should be a good one in the university city too. So
absolutely
a big home match for Academica. They've got a lot of momentum going right now. Let's see how they turn out and get behind their team in this bigger match than they've had so far.
Absolutely. So we'll look forward to seeing you again next week and breaking these down and see hopefully another 3 points from Benfica B and some really good Liga 2 action. So
all right. Thank you, Geoff.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening for those of you on the podcast. And we'll be back again next week here on the Liga 2 report. We're calling it for now. If anybody has name suggestions, you can send them our way. we are open to any permanent name suggestions for this show. Thank you again. I'm Mr. Mike Agostino signing off for Geoff Schulz as well, and we'll see you next time. Peace.